Everybody turn their red lights on. And we'll call this meeting to order. Has everybody taken a chance to look over our minutes from our February the 27th meeting? So, do I hear a motion? We got a motion to approve the minutes from Jody. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second by Carl. All in favor? Okay, moving down to number 3, financial report.
Yeah, for the EDA financial report, it's just a matter of the only thing that's really happened, is that deposit that came into the bank for the gateway signage of $72,000. And so right now in the bank for DDA, there's $122,875, but $76,000 of that is reserved for the gateway signage. And the rest is just there for
I had
operation.
a question, or Tracy had a question about this coming out of Tracy's account, right?
This is the DDA, yep, that's the one that Tracy keeps track of.
Well, the bid was for $76,372,
Correct.
and then the city deposited $72,006.71,
Correct.
less a bid package of $3,600.
We talked about that at the
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah, that the extra would have to come out of the other funds, yeah.
Will it come out of the DDA, Tracy's funds?
Out of the DDA account that Tracy keeps track of, yeah.
Really, we're gonna be about $6,000 off of the bid package from the.
Mhm.
Right, that's,
Which we approved at the last
Yeah.
meeting when we talked about it.
that was my question.
Yep.
Anything else on?
And that's it. No, I mean, the other stuff in that account is just the normal everyday stuff, the lawyer fees, and that's it.
Anything else? Questions? All right, moving on down to 4 DDL, downtown development.
This will probably be wrapped in the old business, but we have a board member position that's coming open. Jody was appointed to fill an unexpired term, and just wanted to bring that to the attention of the DDA. And I don't know if Jody's decided if she wants to stay on or not. Not to put her on the spot or anything right now.
I do feel like that we need to put it out there, give other people
I think
opportunity.
the city wants us to do that.
Yeah, and we functioned before when board members have served. Talked to a few people that are going to put it on their Facebook, or city business Facebook, and stuff too. That was one of my big focuses, was getting new faces, new energy, new ideas and stuff, so I don't want it to stop just when it's my turn.
When does your term end, Jody?
April this year.
April the 1st or the end of April?
DDA terms are really weird,
Yeah.
to say the least. It's April sometime.
Sometime.
But they're not like the 1st of April. They're not it's like the 12th or something like that. Okay, there you go, April 4th.
So how do we go about officially announcing that position then?
Well, that's the city clerk would do that. She would send out, through the normal avenues that we have a board position available. People have to fill out an application and they would submit that. What's been the practice of the city council is that those would then come to the DDA and they can make a recommendation to the council. But the council ultimately has the final decision to be selected for the DDA.
I know that the feeling of, strong feeling of several of the council members is that it's
Sometimes and sometimes it's not.
Well, that's why I said ultimately it's up to the council. Generally, as a general rule, they go with the recommendation of the committee of the board. But I have to preference that by saying that.
When will we need this into city council? May meeting, maybe?
Well, we usually give about 30 days to advertise it, let people to submit their information. So I would say probably in the May meeting. So we would get it in April and then make a recommendation.
At our April meeting, we'll make our recommendation for the May, which will be a week or so after that, right?
Yes, sir.
We probably need to get clerk to advertise?
She's probably
that?
already got
Well,
it.
Yeah, I
we'll-
talked to her
yeah,
about it.
okay,
yeah.
And you guys talked, I personally would like to see some interest in the Premier Lakeside, because we want them invested downtown. We want those.
Yes, I agree.
Anything else on downtown development,
At
Christopher?
the next meeting, would Jody stay on in the next meeting, or we'd have an
Yeah.
empty
Yeah.
spot?
I think
Okay,
generally what's been the practice is the person stays on till the people are reappointed or
They
replaced.
got you.
Yeah.
Anything else on downtown development, Christopher?
No, sir.
All right, we're moving on down to old business. Any old business? New business?
Yep, 2 items on the agenda. The first one is a historic tax credit presentation by Larry Kors. I contemplated whether or not we should put them on the public comment section and give them 3 minutes, but you know,
We'll give him 4.
there you go, more on the presentation part. Oh, I have it right here. Well, unless you change what you sent to me.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Larry.
I'd like to thank the board for allowing us to come before you this evening.
The point of this is that I'm not going to bore you to death reading all this to you. All I was down highlights what the law says for us. Echo the regulations. First is code section 48-7-29. Tax credit for qualified donation of real property. Not really where Gary Oil is going to donate his store. But it can be somebody else in the community who does wish to do this. All we're going to talk about is tax vehicles that the legislature has given to you for you to use. This will keep you up a lot night. It won't keep you up night so people will put this. You're really not going to be able to go through this and understand it. It's going to be a repetition. You or any of your family will be able to think about any of this. Conservation is in and of itself means water quality protection, wetlands, rivers, and lakes. Protection of wildlife habitat, consistent state and wildlife conservation policy. Protection of outdoor recreation areas. Protection of prime agricultural and forestry. Protection of cultural sites, heritage corridors, and archaeological and historic resources. Donation of the property means you're actually physically giving. Have a good fair market value. Now, the whole discussion about who is give the property and about how people can be related to the property. Will give, they will pay. You have to get in line, you have to make applications, you have to be approved before you can do it. Department of Natural Resources clearinghouse for the application. It is approved, it is available and due to approve it, with the actual act of donation. You'll be able to take credit against the state income tax. You're gonna look and go, I don't think that. Take that company in the state income tax. You have years that you can carry it over to, carry your donation tax credit forward. Using the future tax return. And when you don't pay it, then what do you do? Tax credits sold. Again, tax practitioner ask them or her how to help you. Credit limit for 20, getting this transfer for 2016 going forward, is counted for $30 million. So you have to get in line and get in line. If the taxable amount of up to $500,000, 25% of fair market value.
Isn't that whichever is greater or lesser there?
Market practitioner, no seriously, market practitioner, it's in the regulation. It's in the regulation. I'm not here to give you any kind of complete. No, items are available to you.
So you're saying the state has a limit of $300 million or $30 million
$30 million for all tax credits.
in the state? So it's sort of first come, first serve. As things get approved, it reduces the amount. Did you say there was a limit on one person or one property?
No, we can act. Help me on it. It's all up for you and you, the practitioner. Whereas you may have multiple parcels, that would make a, you may only have one large item on one parcel. And then you also may have a number of items that you have, multiply under a separate parcel. Or one big item may sit on, say, a large house, church, or they sit on a parcel. Parcel ownership. Yeah, and you're not restricted on anything.
Is the tax credit that's offered by, through this act, is it better than the tax credit that maybe the city could give to a person who donates a piece of land?
It would be much better. Because there's more, the rate is available to you.
Okay, so if a person were to donate a piece of property to Villa Rica, want to do that, it would be advantageous to them to go through this act rather than to try to get a tax credit from the city, perhaps?
Well, your tax credits in the city would be,
You could also donate this to the DDA as well and realize the same credit. So,
As this act offers.
right.
Well, now, Chris, when the city purchased Butterballs back last year, I don't recall the exact figures involved, but it seemed like it was about an equal split between tax credit and cash, approximately that.
Yeah, there was some type of tax credit, but I don't know that it was necessarily this.
No, this was the city one.
It was probably more of a donation, kind of like if you donate to Habitat for Humanity or something like that. But it's not the tax credit, the same type of tax credit he's talking about.
Okay. Now, the one that you're talking about, Larry, is it an income tax credit or a capital gains credit or what?
The state income tax credit.
Income tax. Right.
State of Georgia doesn't have capital gains anyway, everything's a flat rate. And this is, keep in mind, this is for property that we can't do anything with, because it's conservation, so you just have to keep the property the way, I mean, there's limited things you can do to it, but we can't go build a building on it or something like that. It's to be, for the property to be conserved, keep its natural state and.
But if there's a building on it and the building is the focal point of the transaction, then the building itself could be maintained, of course, because otherwise there'd be no point in doing this.
Well, you know, if you look at the purposes for the conservation purposes, that's what you have to meet those purposes. And so if it's like a historic building, archaeological building,
Right.
cultural site, yes.
Historic resources, it says.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So if someone were to donate something, let's say like a mill building, let's just say like the old loft building over there, if it had been donated as a mill building, it could still be upgraded into lofts. There would just be, it could not be upgraded at all.
I don't think so. I think it has to keep its original historical purpose. I mean, if you're upgrading into the lofts, it's not keeping its historic. And, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, it's the way, I'm a CPA, so I've looked at these before.
Well, you can give more advice than I can.
And-
Trust me, you definitely can.
So it's a little different than, you know, somebody giving us a building that we can use.
But, and Carl can opine on this, but let's say you wanted to take that same mill and make it into an interpretive museum about the mill history, would that,
I don't know.
you know, I always add that little
I
extra.
would always say that you can always talk to DNR
Yeah,
about, in their conservation program, you know, what their goal is. I think their whole goal is to not knock it down.
Yes.
You know, knock a structure down is the whole point.
Plus, they have to approve it first, so I mean,
Yeah.
you present to them what you want to do with it, and they
Right.
approve it, and
Well, I just remember on the lofts, that was bought as a purchase as a mill building. The area had to get historical designation
Right.
before that
Correct.
anything was done. But then the lofts, you had to sort of kind of keep it in its original shape and not change the walls. But it could be renovated into the lofts and still
As
approved for the credit.
as Dale and I've talked in the past, that in historic preservation, that in facades, you keep the facade, the building front in its historic perspective. What you do inside, you know, you don't have to keep an 1870s building, circa 1870s building with 1870s plumbing, no electricity and coal oil. No, you don't have to do that. You want to bring it up to the 21st century standards. So you can have a very modern door, but we like to have a period type of perspective on its building materials. Show what the town looked like in a period of time.
Well, certainly Dale knows how to do that because that's basically the business that he's in.
Good.
Larry, how did you foresee us using this information?
It's more about having the information available to you to disseminate, as opposed to me telling you what to do with it. You know, what you choose to do with the information is of your choosing, but I would hope that if someone were to come by, just drive up the street one day and hop out of the car and go, this looks like a nice town, wonder if I can invest here, which we were talking about forward meeting, what are some of the things you can say to them? Well, they ask about, well, I'm from California. We got, and you say, well, we do too. And you can say, you can pull some of these items up, and you can look at the law and the regulation, and you say, these are some things that you can consider.
How much lead time, Dale, do you think somebody would have to get approval for a project in a small town like Villa Rica?
Probably about 6 months.
Well, that's shorter than I thought.
Depends if you have the right architectural rules. You get the right team on board, you have to
And then you're going to have to get in line and see if you apply. Now, I'm not going to tell you how they do their business. I'm kind of getting some cross messages out of this, that if you apply and you're turned down, I believe what you have to do is apply again the next year. And it's electronic, so they can track who got there first, because it'll assign a number electronically. And because in the conservation they do the same, and rehabilitation they do the same thing. It's pretty much on first come first served basis. The point of this is that when I get these things from revenue as information pieces, what you look at is, why is this out there? You think, why is this out there, and who is this really trying to benefit? Because somebody really wants this. Once these two parts of the law, it's there for a reason, and somebody's got some money on the line, and they had to make it fair enough, first come first serve, and put enough money up there to make a go of it. Because the next one we look at, it's got a little different numbers on it, but it has the little bit different idea, but same basic concept. But there's a lot more money in rehabilitation.
Questions?
Okay. All right, and the rehabilitation tax credit. Again, this is the law.
Take this to my library.
The historic rehabilitation is about doing a certified rehabilitation, a certified structure or historic home, a qualified rehabilitation expenditure, substantial rehabilitation, and a target area all have the same meaning under the Act. And they're looking at giving a tax credit equal to 25% of the qualified rehabilitation expenditure for the certified rehabilitation project in the target area, with an additional credit of 5% of the qualified rehabilitation expenditure shall be allowed. The credit limit in this case is a historic rehabilitation credit for historic homes shall not exceed $100,000 in any 120-month period. So the applicant would take 10 years or 120 months to use $100,000 in tax credits. The Department of Natural Resources will be the one to make the certification. Now, the historical home property can be improved, and then it can be sold. And there's some conditions and definitions under sale, and of course, there are certain things that are not allowed under the sale. Now, there are other historic rehabilitation credits for any other certified structure. And this is in the regulation that I believe you had in your work packet. And it says that a taxpayer shall be allowed a tax credit equal to 25% of the rehabilitation tax credit for the certified rehabilitation of any other certified structure other than a certified historic home in a taxable year in which the certified rehabilitation is completed. The limitation in this instance for this project for a project completed before January 1 of 2017, the credit shall not exceed $300,000 in any 120-month period. So let's see, we've got a tripling of the amount in the same time period. The key to this is that the certified rehabilitation that is completed on or after January 1 of 2017 will require, the maximum credit for any individual certified structure after 2017, starting this year, can have a structure limit of $5 million instead of $300,000 per year. And in the case that the project creates 200 or more full-time permanent jobs or $5 million in additional annual payroll within 2 years of being placed in service, the maximum credit limit shall be $10 million for the individual certified structure. Full-time jobs will be 30 hours a week work per or more.
Is that the rule that ended in December, that they've got a bill pending now to extend it? Tax credits for if you get a job? It was in our packet.
Yeah, no, the regulation is. The regulation itself is in the packet.
Larry, did I understand you to say that the credit can be sold?
Yes.
Does it have to be sold to a purchaser, or can it just be sold for anyone that's interested in doing it?
There are businesses and people, as Dale informed me, I didn't realize this, that people want to buy your tax credits, and they're looking to buy them. Now, past that, I'm in the dark. My tax area when I was with Revenue was not income tax.
Depending on how strong a tax credit it is like, you know, how sure it is of being upheld. Like one of these that's approved by the state ahead of time, they'll sell those for anywhere from like 85 to 95 cents on the dollar. So, you know, you'll buy that, you'll pay, say, 90 cents for this tax credit, and you get $1 credit on your tax return. So you're getting that 10% gap there. Because like for you wouldn't be able to use it probably because you don't probably pay a whole lot of tax to Georgia because of your age. You know, you get the exclusion, retirement income exclusion.
I am looking forward to being that old.
All right. I shouldn't make that assumption, I guess. But for someone else that has a high Georgia tax, then they could. I had a golfer client that his Georgia tax was huge every year, and he would buy film credits every year to offset that at 90 cents on the dollar. But there's, like he said, there's whole companies and organizations out there, that's all they do is resell these tax credits.
So here again, this is information that you can digest, or you can sleep through instead of sleeping through the basketball game.
Question from Larry?
The last item was just the House bill that's in your packet has been, it's here again, this is for information purposes again. It's about basically dilapidated properties. And the population of the municipality that can be eligible for it is population cannot exceed 15,000. The House and the Senate bill differ, and the only thing to differ on, of course, is the money and the time period. So we'll see if that goes or not. I see it was, it's sent back to committee, so we'll see where that goes. I don't think we're going to be able to qualify for it, but I just brought it up as a piece of simple information, to show you that other things are there, and if it works for dilapidation, for 15,000, why not more? Why not a higher population?
More questions from Larry or Dale?
We thank you very much.
All right. Moving on down to new business number 2. Christopher?
Yes, sir. In your packet, you have information on a draft proposal for a Thomas A. Dorsey Museum of Gospel, Blues, and Jazz. For at this point in time, this is just for informational purposes only, just so that when you start hearing more
Read the
details about this and some money figures and things like that, you'll have a reference point for that. This project is being spearheaded by the Thomas Dorsey Board. It's been a long desire of that group to have a museum here in Villa Rica. As I quickly realized when I first came here that there are certain aspects of our history that we don't do a adequate enough job telling and interpreting, and this is one of those things that, in my opinion, as a museum professional, because I was a museum curator before I got into the government side, this is a potential museum that has national implications. This is not, and not to talk about, to diminish any other parts of history, but most cities, especially in the South, have some type of textile history. Most cities have some type of history to rail, and then there are, a handful of cities that have gold histories, and of course, Dahlonega has captured that market for the most part. But there can only be one Thomas Dorsey, and he can only be born in one place, and that happens to be Villa Rica. So it's a great potential and opportunity for us to do something on a national scale. There's a national organization that he helped found, he is the founder of it, that still meets to this day, and so there's a national organization that already that he helped birth. So this is going to be a very big project for Villa Rica. We've already had some very productive conversations with our corporate entities to raise money for this project. We've had conversations with people from the State Tourism Office about this project, and it's really something that has already begun to take some wings and fly, if you will. So,
What's the proposed location?
That's what I was fixing to say.
yes, that's on the executive session. That there would be some potential to acquire some property, so I'll discuss that more in executive session.
Anything else on Thomas Dorsey?
That's all I have.
All right, moving down to number 7, public comment. Neil, you got a chance. Items for future agenda.
I'd just like to say, we have a big audience today. We're not used to this many folk being.
So we'll move on down to executive session. Do I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved
Second.
for real estate.
Yes.
Okay, for real estate.
For the purpose of discussing real estate.
All right. So we've got a motion and somebody seconded, somebody who
Bill.
seconded? Bill seconded?
Bill seconded.
Bill.
Tom seconded.
Tom says Bill seconded. Bill says